What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. This is a series where we take a look at the PBE, look at the likely changes, and go over who I think is going to be really strong moving into 6.14. This could technically change in the actual patch, but it's only a few days away now, which makes it pretty unlikely anything is going to be massively different to what we're actually seeing. So let's talk about Talia first, because I think she might actually be the power pick for this patch. Casters in the LCS have been calling her Talia though, so I don't actually know which is right, but Talia just sounds way better to me, so I'm going to go with that. But anyway, she's super strong right now as it is, and people are finally figuring that out and learning her properly. I actually did some digging behind these changes, and a rioter said that from their data, Talia's learning curve was a bit too high with her current W, and it was making it very hard to get to grips with her, taking like tons of games before people were able to unlock her potential. That is something Riot actually tends to stay away from. They really don't like that kind of idea, especially because it creates a huge gap between low elo and like a high elo Talia player. Anyway, she's getting two changes on the PBE right now, a nerf to the damage on her E and a cooldown increase on her W, but the cast type is now changed with it. I think this is actually a very big buff, right? I've even said this is a buff, and basically there are two new cast types being tested, a Victor style laser cast, or how it is now but unlocked as soon as you use it. The second version, what that would mean is that you can now W and then E afterwards, which you can't do now. When you use your W, you can immediately move and cast another spell instead of being locked in place for the duration of the cast time. If you haven't played Talia, that is actually a really big change, and it could technically be either, but Riot have said they prefer the unlocked version of the current form, so we're likely going to see that one. Either way, this will make it a lot easier to play Talia and do well with her, which means this patch we're going to see an absolute ton of her. Players like Bjergsen and Froggen and even Pobelter are playing her in the LCS, which always makes them more popular, but now with these changes she'll actually be strong when played by someone new to her. Talia is a massive lane bully. She has so much kill potential. Her flip into minefield combo can one-shot people, and she can even roam really well. That wall is pretty ridiculous if you use it correctly. You roam down, you angle it off to cut off their escape with the wall behind them, and they're pretty screwed. It's not exactly like this, but I kind of think of her like a lane bully version of Twisted Fate, and that is how you should play her. You win your lane, you poke heavily, and roam a lot with your ultimate. Riot reckon she'll be a bit more functional as a support now as well. We might see her there too, but at the moment her damage is insane, and we use that most when playing her mid or as kind of a tanky top laner. The other big things this patch are the changes to support, so the mini reworks to Leona and Sona. There are a lot of changes for both of these right now, but I'm going to kind of like dumb it down to the basics of what's actually different now to keep it simple. Leona's base damage is down on her passive, her Q, W, and her ultimate. The cooldown though of her Q is down, and the E actually roots for longer. Your ultimate now causes Leona's next 3, 4, or 5 basic attacks to gain 100 range, deal on-hit damage, and they apply her passive with each swing. Leona right now is probably the best support you can actually play. She suddenly shot up last patch and became super good, but what about after these changes? I actually think she's going to only get stronger and become maybe ban worthy, as weird as that sounds. The reason I think that though, like her W damage is only slightly lower at rank 3 by 20 damage, then 30 at rank 4, finally 40 at rank 5. That means you'll still be doing a ton of damage, about the same up till level 7 where you might notice it a bit more, but by that time you already have your new ultimate. Your Q cooldown is down by 2 seconds every rank, and the damage is only down by 10. You won't even feel that. The E duration is up. It's actually doubled. Yes, the ultimate rank 1 is down 50 base damage, but you gain 30 on hit damage for 3 attacks. That's already 90 damage, so 40 more, plus the 3 extra procs of her passive if you play it correctly with your AD carry. Overall, that is so much more damage in my mind. You still engage and do a ton early. That won't really change, but now after 6, even with the base damage nerfs, you'll be doing even more damage. Soraka, Karma, Nami, Sona, Janna, these are all pretty popular right now, and you absolutely crush mage supports. The best way to beat them is actually to focus them and burst them down, and normally that's not a good idea because their AD can attack you for free, but with Leona they will die in a few seconds, so will the enemy AD actually. Speaking of Sona, her changes are way more on the rework scale of things, and it's getting like a few tweaks everywhere. There are a lot of changes which you can see on the screen, but the general gist is her damage is down, her healing is better, her E is more utility, kind of like Moby boots for her, and her ultimate reduces the base cooldown of her auras. Instead of being this annoying poke champion, she's more like a Nami now. Early levels she can still poke and do a lot of damage, but that's going to fall off as you go into the game, and it's more about the sustain now. In my opinion, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't max your heal now in the lane phase after all the little buffs it's getting. In teamfights, it'll be way more about the aura switching at the correct times. Like with the reduced cooldown, you can swap between them a lot and use the correct power chord too, which will probably be the reduction in damage, which is now up to 25%. If you love playing Sona as this kind of poke heavy oppressive support who does a ton of damage, then those days are probably over. She's aimed now more at being like a healing support with a bit of damage as well. This patch for support though would definitely move towards defensive supports like Soraka, Sona, Nami, Lulu, and Janna. The Crucible and Ardent Sensor builds that are popping up everywhere are way too strong, and they can have a ton of impact. The increased healing and shields actually scale really well as well. It makes a big difference and keeps people alive when they really should be dead. Perfect when the other picks right now now are carries that want to do damage and need looking after. In my opinion, those 5 defensive supports will be seeing a lot more play, but Leona is there to crap on them as well. So it's likely going to be Leona, Sona, and Soraka at the top tier and be seen a lot of the time in games. Lulu is a bit more of a niche pick though. She's good in certain situations, but this leads me on to where AD carries kind of fit into this meta. Kog'Maw is getting ready to explode right now, trust me, in the jungle and as an AD carry. These defensive supports are perfect for him. His item build is great, the new Ardent Sensor is so strong, and Lulu and Kog'Maw is a crazy combination. I actually lost my lane pretty hard on the stream with the Kog Lulu. I was like 1 and 4 or something, but in team fights with Runins and Ragebait, the on-hit damage from Sensor and Lulu, I was able to just kill everything, even though they were stronger than me. It's basically like having 10,000 gold's worth of stats on him when he's only spent like 6,500. That is ridiculous, so definitely watch out for those two. And if you play like pre-made support and AD carry, give that a try. It's so good and so fun. Jhin, in my opinion, has taken the top spot for ADs right now. There are a lot of good picks for AD and it's pretty diverse, but Jhin is just pretty busted in his current state. He has a lot of burst, he is very high range damage from a whole screen away, but he can slow, he can root, and that is what's taking him over the top. Like the ability to just snowball a game out of control by getting picks. I think actually Leona in a current state is just making him better as well. Leona can dive in, stun, and then Jhin can follow it up with his root of his own, and suddenly you're in a whole heap of trouble. That combo together is something I expect to see a lot more. Even a long range Leona ult into Jhin W, then Leona Q, that is a disgusting engage from very long range, and I think people will really start to abuse it now. The jungle is only really getting one change, and that's to Lee Sin, to his W giving more of a shield. I thought this was useless really, to be honest, at the start, but there's a new Lee build going around Hylo which might make more use of this. The build is essentially getting your blue smite, then Titanic Hydra, finishing off Cinderhulk, and then going tanky. It's a play on the Hecarim build right now. We're seeing very tanky but has a lot of natural damage packed into it as well. It lets him do a good amount of damage early, clear well, but also scale like he wasn't able to before, to make him actually useful in team fights rather than looking for a magical kick or like to assassinate someone. With Lee being a lot more tanky but also a threat, it makes his W change a bit more useful, I think, and we might see him become more effective, but at the same time Lee is only as good as the player playing him, and the full AD build is also very popular still. Hecarim will most likely still dominate the jungle for now. He is definitely ban worthy. Crazy ganks, clear speed, and impact on the map. The damage he can output while still being tanky is way too high. Thing is, whenever a champion gets that strong, he's banned a lot, and that opens up a few other picks, to the first of which is going to be Fiddle. Fiddlesticks is getting better anyway, but the removal of Hecarim will make him a bit safer and less of a risky pick. We are moving into a more heavy team fight meta right now, and the less tanks we have, the better Fiddle gets. He can dive in and practically one-shot carry champions who haven't got any magic resist yet. The Fear is also way more useful against carries. The Drain can sometimes outheal their damage, but he also has some good gank pressure if you run around with Moby Boos. Warwick is another one I want to talk about where you probably think I've gone a little bit mad, but actually he fits his meta so well. He doesn't really have as much impact in the early game, I will admit that, and he is kind of boring to be honest, but he reaches a point where he becomes unstoppable now. The game has slowed down a little bit, it's not quite as fast, there aren't as many invade heavy junglers like Nidalee, which means he can get away with farming early to 6, but the items are the main thing. Bloodrazor, Wit's End, Blade the Ruined King, they give him a stupid amount of damage considering his ultimate applies on hit. It applies a Bloodrazor and Blade the Ruined King percentage health damage plus the Wit's End damage and debuff. I know he's not like a traditional or popular jungler right now, but he is a sleeper pick right now, trust me. Play him at lower ranks especially, and you can effectively 1v5 the enemy team. So Malzahar changes finally what we've all been waiting for, and they're targeting his move speed by 5 and his attack range, to be fair, down by 50 from 550 to 500. I said this in my preview video, but Riot has this habit of nerfing a champion very slightly when they know they're a problem, but they don't want to adjust the damage numbers too much, and then if that doesn't work, which it normally doesn't, they whack him back to the Stone Age with nerfs. It's happened a lot, and this is probably going to happen to Malz as well. The attack range is annoying though, like he revolves around using his E on minions and pushing with autos. That makes it a bit more risky, plus in a way it makes it easier to proc his passive damage reduction. This should make him easier to gank in theory. It's easier to proc the passive before you come in with a lower range, but I mean even that is grasping at straws. I don't think that is really enough. He's a monster at every rank right now, very easy to play and very easy to have an impact with, and I don't think you can go too wrong with this guy. Talia might come in and screw him a little bit. It's quite hard to get in range of her, and she can flip you if you ult someone else, but for now he'll still be insanely strong and taking a steaming dump on lower elo especially. The Rise rework should be coming through this patch or at some point in it anyway, so let's talk about that quickly. If you want to know a bit more about it, by the way, I'll link an overview from my friend Skin Spotlights, which is what you're seeing on screen as well. Apparently he's going to play relatively the same with a few different spell combos and rotations, but his ultimate is the weirdest thing. He can teleport allies and minions a short distance away, like an AoE Twisted Fate ultimate. Anyway, with the new rework, the champion becomes very popular for a few days. We already know that just from experience and everyone wanting to test a new champion out. This will mean champions who are good against Ryze will just be even better. We're looking for anything with range and burst, so I'd expect Victor, Anivia, and Ahri to all become more popular and better next patch. They are all actually pretty good on their own anyway, but in this current state, they are all favored against Ryze, and I can't see that changing too much with the rework either. The top lane isn't really getting much of a change directly this patch. Poppy and Fiora are the only planned changes, but they're both small and not likely enough to make a huge difference. Fiora is the only one where she's actually strong but underplayed right now. Maybe this will encourage people to play her again. Top lane is definitely in a carry meta right now. That's kind of obvious, but a few tanks are still really solid. I definitely expect to see like Riven, Darius, Irelia, and Yasuo to stay as popular as they are, but Pantheon, San, Kayle, and Shen are four that are flying under the radar, doing really well but not played very often. Pantheon and Kayle are picks that are a little bit riskier, but they're there to match damage with damage and to out carry the carry picks basically. San and Shen just survive forever. They don't really die. They reach a point where it's very hard for anybody to kill them because they've stacked so much defense, but they also have enough damage to be a threat still. So that wraps up this video. Let me know what you guys think, whether you think my predictions are right or who you think else might be strong in patch 6.14. But that's all for this video, so I'll leave you with the robots.